Right, red light.
Red light. I'm so excited, as always, when we can bring you the red light. And,
Yes, our red champions. What
and
would we do without them? What?
what would we do without our champions? I tell you, life would be just a smidge boring because
Yep.
they're all pretty fabulous. So, we like having them around. And so tonight's red light is going to be shined on such a phenomenal and amazing person. You would think we've known each other forever, but we haven't really. It really hasn't been that long. But, I harass him like it's been forever nonetheless, because guess what? I can. And it's awesome. It's awesome. So you guys are going to learn about this amazing guy. So let me just say, welcome to
Yes.
another episode of Red Light with the fabulous women of Red Development Group. And I am Colette Portis, and my beautiful host is
Reggie Stearns Kemp, and we are business strategists who provide what? Business literacy.
Oh, I like it. Ha ha. And so today's going to be no different. You're going to learn something here. So our promise to you is that every time we come in front of you, we promise you that you will leave here knowing something that you didn't already know.
Right.
Even if that means you simply learned the name of our guest. You didn't know it before you got here. So how about that? So tonight we're going to be talking about internet radio and terrestrial radio. I won't tell you guys why I put emphasis on terrestrial, but we're going to be having that conversation with one of our amazing Red champions, Mr. Dorien Jaye, who is the founder and owner of Tap the Mic Radio and Dorien Jaye Voiceovers, but his official title is the chief bottle washer. Yes, that is who he is. He absolutely loves being creative, and I promise you that he is really amazing at it. So if you've heard any of those goalie commercials that I've been posting on social media, or if you've listened to Tap the Mic Radio and listened to Realize Destiny, he is my Oz. He is the man behind the magic curtain. And so, welcome, Mr. Dorien, to the Red Light.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much, Colette.
There is a roll going. Go ahead. Drum roll. Go ahead. Yes.
We're excited, can't you tell? We're all bubbly and stuff. No, so listen, Dorien, we really are excited to have you on the show because you really are the great Oz. You're the great and wonderful Oz. You're the guy that's making it all happen, and nobody really knows how is this happening. But we know that we have Dorien. So tell the people a little bit more about who Mr. Dorien Jaye is.
Well, let me start by saying this. I didn't realize as chief bottle washer of Tap the Mic Radio that this is not a game for one man. Internet radio is not the thing for one man, which I went into this whole thing thinking that's what it was until I met you and then realized I can't do this by myself.
Yeah.
I need a team around me. And that I just got chills when I said that out loud because it's so important. And I didn't realize that. And yeah, I was part of terrestrial radio for over 40 years. And I took all of that knowledge and brought it into this, but you can't do it by yourself, or it's not going to be as successful if you do. So you need to have that crew around you, which is kind of difficult in when you're internet radio and all your talent is spread across the country, mainly Texas.
Yeah.
And now this pandemic. So I've kind of turned into a hermit out of all of this.
I
So,
think we've all kind of turned into, well, most of us kind of turned into hermits throughout all of this. But what I love about what's so amazing. So when I'll just tell you a little bit about how I met Dorien. So Dorien was introduced to me through my design company because he needed his website redesigned. And so that's how we connected. Well, we were just having this conversation and he goes, "You have a great voice for radio." And I said, "Well, that's interesting. I plan to have a radio show one day." And he's like, "One day? Why don't you just do it right now?" I'm like, is that how that works? And he's just like, "Yeah, come on, let's just do it." And so Realize Destiny was born as a result of that. But most who know me know that I would not make that kind of decision that quickly. But the reason I did is because, like you said, Dorien, you come with 40, how many years of
40, 40 plus. Let's not really
plus?
pinpoint it right now.
But I think it's interesting. You said that, when she approached you, you thought, wow, do I have the team? Do I have what it takes? And I'm glad you said that because you've been in the business for 40 years. So most of the people that we coach, oftentimes they think, oh, I got it. I don't need it. I don't need to know how to build teams right. And so for you to admit that was huge. And then you guys have been working together ever since.
Well, Colette opened my eyes to actually opened my eyes to what business was all about. And it's not just coming up with an idea and getting it going. It's so many details. And for somebody like me that's in the creative end of it, I love the creation of all of it. I love putting together the radio station, and I love production, creating and putting those shows together and just making a soup out of it. And I didn't realize that I really needed that support staff around me to be able to network, to be able to do things. And Colette introduced me to a system that put me in control of my business.
Is that called a strategy too? System and strategy? So,
Yeah.
my question to you, Dorien, do you feel or did you feel overwhelmed when you were working on the strategy for one and as you're implementing it? Because I think a lot of times people step back and they say, oh, I don't have time for that. Well, what do you have time for? Do you have time to be in business?
Right.
It's easier once you realize what you're looking at. And that's the thing that she did for me, is gave me a system that I could step up or look over like a drone and say, this is what the business is. And, oh, I need to go there and I can do this and I need to do this every week and put things in priority for me.
Mm-hmm.
And we have so much stuff in our minds and what we want to do. And like I said, I'm in the creative end. And if I just focus on that, I lose the other stuff. I'm not taking care of the other stuff. And we all have stuff that we have to do. So I needed a system that could balance my stuff.
Yeah. And it's the other stuff that allows you to be creative.
Right.
Because a lot of times we do spend all of our time. One of two things happen. Either we spend all of our time in the creative space or we spend all of our time in the admin space. And we don't realize that you got to have this flow, not balance, because it's never going to be even killed, ever. That's just not the way it works. It's just not the way life works. But you got to have this flow where things go up and down, but you're spending a little time over here and a little time over there. And it's funny because Reggie and I were just having a meeting a couple hours ago, and we were talking about this very thing and having those things that are in place. And some days you spent the entire day in the creative space, and then it's 11 o'clock at night and you go, oh no, I forgot I needed to do this. So let me go do this before I go to sleep. But it still had to get done. And then maybe the next day, you spent all of your time over in the admin space and you didn't get to necessarily create, but guess what happens the next day? You get to create, and you get to create from a place of freedom, because now you're not worried about the admin things that have to happen and things like that.
Right.
So just for those who don't know, that the system that Dorien is talking about is, or part of it at least, is the goalie system that that we use as the foundation of our coaching programs, because we saw that, like Dorien said, most people are being creative. We're being creative, or if your personality type is green or possibly red, you're spending all of your time in the admin space and not really getting into the creative space and finding that flow in your business. So I want to take a step back for a moment, Dorien, because we touched on it at the beginning, but I want to make sure that people are clear, because there are a lot of podcasts, there are a lot of internet radio stations, and I think until right now, we didn't really realize until this pandemic the value in this space. And so explain to us what internet radio is. What is it?
Well, internet radio is a little bit more free form than, quote, terrestrial radio and satellite radio. It's kind of taken what satellite radios created and went the next step further, which has its ups and downs, because of that. But what I've learned with it is stick with the format. No matter what you want to do for a podcast, or if your podcast is going to sound like a radio station, or if you create a radio station, and this is what I did with Tap the Mic Radio, is I created a music station that features podcasts. Because I wanted to get the best of both worlds in there, and to be able to educate at the same time, be able to be family friendly, be able to keep a control on my own station as far as censoring and what we want to be respectful of with that type of formatting. I don't want to offend people. And the one thing that I'm staying away from is politics, because you lose one side or the other. I don't care what side you're on, but politics is very divisive nowadays. And I can't afford to lose 50% of whatever I have. But internet is not regulated yet. So you have to be very careful, and you have to police yourself. And I do hear a lot of stuff that isn't, and that's how they're calling them podcasts, So yeah, it's a fine line, but
So
I'm trying to stick with those traditions of terrestrial radio and satellite radio, and kind of be a part of my own force.
Yeah, that's what I love about Tap the Mic Radio, though. It may not be terrestrial radio, which is traditional radio, but if you listen to Tap the Mic Radio, you can't tell the difference, because there's commercial breaks and there's music, but there's still podcasts, and people like me get to come and have conversations with business owners, and there's jazz on the weekend, and then there's DJ
the Mix Show Federation on Friday nights with DJ Colossus.
With DJ Colossus on Friday nights, so you can get your party on. But when you go, it doesn't sound like what you hear on internet radio oftentimes, which is just a series of podcasts. Nothing wrong with that, but there are sponsors and things like that, and and ads that are important. And what I've loved about Tap the Mic Radio, in seeing it evolve, is that you really have gotten to a place where you've owned your space and said, in this space, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is what we bring, and we're sticking to this
Absolutely.
thing.
Absolutely. We can do things that terrestrial radio and satellite radio can't do. And I'm trying to, maybe it won't work, but what I'm trying to do is stay outside the box and do things that other traditional radio stations aren't doing. Trying to stay traditional with radio because I'm a radio guy, but also blend, like, I don't particularly, that's not my style of music, but it's not about what I like. Because this is internet radio, and I know the majority of the audience is a younger demographic, I cater to their needs because they're the first in line who's going to immediately, as part of their lifestyle, pick up internet radio and use it. Where me, I'll look for an oldie station on, terrestrial radio, or go to satellite radio and look for something oldies or jazz or, what interests me. So, but I do know there's people that, and that's the thing about terrestrial radio that always frustrated me. It's either or. We're either going to be a top 40 radio station, or we're going to be a smooth jazz station, or we're going to be a gospel station or a country station. Why can't we give a little bit of both? And you can tune in when you want, the same way you do with everything else, And so I want to bring a little bit of a variety. My weekend programming is totally different from the week, and it's fun. It's got some different things in there.
So Dorien, these are uncertain times, and Colette and I are always talking about what different industries are doing. So for instance, how can internet radio help a attorney or a doctor or entrepreneurs? Because everybody's looking for what they can do to attract their customers or to position themselves or to share their expert knowledge. What is it that you recommend or advise or?
Well, I think the biggest thing right now is the cost factor. To advertise on a terrestrial radio station or a satellite radio station or a network, a big network or cable radio, it's costly. Internet radio is so new right now, people should be taking advantage of the low rates that we're forced to give ourselves away at right now, while it's a frontier, and we haven't gotten a handle on that, and there's no regulations or anything around that. But I do know, as a businessman, I can't ask for too much, because I need you to try me out and try my value first. So it is a really good buy to be a part of internet radio station. And people have to remember the whole new generation that's coming into this. They're growing up with internet radio. Yeah. They don't know television or terrestrial radio and stuff like that. Okay, maybe in your car, but look how many people are getting in there, young people too. And that's also influencing even old geezers like myself to just get in the car and use your phone to put on what you want to hear.
Right.
So Dorien, I think maybe you might want to give a commercial plug for yourself, just in case somebody comes on and they jump off. You did mention that, now is the best time. So how can they get in contact with Dorien? Is it Tap the Mic or?
Absolutely. You can either go to tapthemicradio.com and get to us through our website, and take a listen to the radio station and see what it sounds like. Or you can contact me through Dorien Jaye Voiceovers, which is also on Facebook with both Dorien Jaye Voiceovers and Tap the Mic Radio. But Tap the Mic Radio, just go there.
Yeah. The other thing too, though, I think is invaluable, that I think a lot of times we're not thinking about as business owners, is while we could pay traditional radio lots of money for our ads in our community, in our state, nationally, whatever, internet radio has an international global audience. So
Absolutely.
what I know for sure about Tap the Mic is we got a pretty sizable audience in the UK
Germany.
and in Germany,
Yeah.
you know? And so if you want to reach people in the UK and in Germany, then if you really want to have that sort of reach, then you should be using internet radio, but you have to be careful about what you pick, because you could just be, you could just end up on somebody's podcast, or you could actually have a commercial, which is what sets Tap the Mic Radio apart. Because when you listen to Realize Destiny, you will hear that it is sponsored by Faye Hill and her new book. You will hear that. You will hear a break that says this is the sponsor who supports this show. But we're not the only ones hearing it. Everybody anywhere who connects with Tap the Mic Radio also hears it. But the other thing I want to point out, I want you to speak to, Dorien, is all of the outlets that Tap the Mic is on. Like, you can literally pick up anything that has an electric pulse.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about internet radio is the availability of using different platforms within your own platform of internet radio. That's huge. And you can also take those podcasts that you're doing, and I want to get a little creative as far as our podcasting is concerned, because your show, the Realize Destiny Radio show, is totally different. You would never hear that on maybe a business network, like Fox Business, something like that. But you would never hear it on internet radio, or unless you went looking for those specific type of podcasts. And that's the thing that you can do. You can be specific about it, or you can just try to blend those two worlds together, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. And to Reggie's point, she asked about, what could business owners be doing? And I see a lot of people are turning to podcasts, but I want to make sure that they know to ask the right questions. Like, what's the format of your station? Where can people hear me? Like, I know that people can hear Realize Destiny on iTunes. They can hear it on Anchor. They can hear it on Alexa. They can hear it on Google.
And even with Anchor gives us 8 different platforms like Spotify and a bunch of Deezer and a bunch of different platforms that are just podcasts, period. And that's a real advantage as well, because now you're networking again. You're networking just that one show.
So another thing, I hear what you're talking about the podcast, but what about those entrepreneurs that have never done that before? What do they need to prepare for? How do you help them once they decide that they want to be on internet radio? What does that look like for them?
That looks like they should listen Monday through Friday to Tap the Mic Radio and the Realize Destiny Radio show, and they'll tell you everything you need to know.
I like that answer.
Yeah, because, entrepreneurs, they're looking for different things, but because they've never done it before, we don't want that to delay them from making that decision. Because anytime something is new and different, you delay because you want to research, you want to know that you can do it. Is it too much? What does it take from me? Yeah.
And you know what, Reggie? That's the thing. Look outside the box, because that's what internet radio is, outside the box. And you can get the same thing on terrestrial radio and satellite radio on internet radio. and take advantage of those. I mean, even look at terrestrial radio stations are using internet radio to expand their audience so
Yeah.
they can go global.
Yes.
So it means something to even those that are involved in their own industry. They know how to take advantage of this.
And I
Or
will
use it.
say, as a show host on Tap the Mic, the thing for me that set Dorien apart, Dorien wasn't the first person that I had talked to about hosting my show on. But here's what set Dorien apart from everyone else. Number one, the number of years that he spent in radio. Number two, the fact that he sees it as such and he treats it that way, and it's a professional environment. But here's what I think, I personally, is what's most important to me. Colette likes to talk. Colette shows up and talks. Colette logs off. Dorien does everything else. That I love. That is, it allows me as a business owner to do what I do and have like this, like Realize Destiny is my passion project. And I don't have to take anything away from my day to day in order to do it. But my passion project, like Dorien can tell you, and Reggie, you too. Like when I get off that mic and I've been on Realize, I am fired up. Like I'm not sleeping for 2 days. It's
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Everybody.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but what I believe is so amazing about the great Oz, as I refer to him, is that Dorien is so non-intimidating, and he coaches me. I mean, we've been doing this for a year now. It'll be a year on June 1, and Dorien is still logged into every one of my shows when I record. And afterwards we laugh and I go, yep, I really messed that up. And he goes, yeah, you messed that up, but we'll fix it next time. Or he'll even pause me in the middle of a show and go, hey, can you go back and do? So I'm actually getting coached, which is why I can do this now. I'm actually getting coached through the process. And I can't tell you, I don't know anybody, and I've been on hundreds of podcasts. I don't know anybody else who is actually making you better at the craft. And I think it's got a lot to do with your experience in traditional radio, that you know how this goes. And so your ear is always perked up and listening to, ooh, it's okay, Colette, are you going to ever cut to that commercial?
Right. So I'm glad you shared that, because that's what I was asking. For most people, when they come to you or before they come to you, they're going to be very hesitant because they've never done it before. And what is it going to require of me? And like Colette said, she loves it because she gives it her all. And then she steps back and she allows you to do what you do best.
Yes.
Yeah, you're best to find a producer, someone that, like myself, enjoys that part of it. When she's done talking, then I can play. And I can do what I love to do the most, and that's the creating part of it, taking the raw stuff she's given me and making her sound great and packaging this whole thing together so it's fun to listen to.
Yeah. That's
a thing about a lot of podcasts. You can go on there, you can have your own Zoom feed and stuff like that and record yourself, but there's so many boring podcasts out there that, Yeah.
Well, the content that but not boring. It really isn't, and I think it's very needed in the business community. So, did you mention the name of that, Colette? Can you mention that again? Realize Destiny. Realize
Destiny Radio, and I'm so excited to I'm almost about to jump out of my skin because Dorien really is the Oz. Like, he's behind the curtain. Nobody knows he exists, but I know how phenomenal he is, because when I hear my own show, even after I've recorded it, like, I don't get to hear it, too much in advance from anybody else. But when I hear my own show, I'm like, man, that is good. Not just because I showed up and had a conversation. Yes, the conversation is good. It's engaging, all of that. But when Dorien puts his magic hands on that thing, it is good. It could literally play in any space at any time in the world. That's how I feel about it as a host. And I think that is the most important thing. And I know, and I think the other thing, and Dorien, you tell me if you think this makes a difference. The other thing is Colette and Dorien are a team.
Yes.
What we do, we're communicating back and forth together. I'm not making any decisions about Realize Destiny Radio that I haven't talked to Dorien about, and vice versa. And sometimes Dorien's talking to me about Tap the Mic Radio, like, hey, should I do this? But we're a team, and I think that makes a difference.
That's, absolutely. And it's that, I mean, you can always tell when your chemistry is good with somebody, and you can get a handle on that right away. And I've learned over all these years to try to recognize the ones that are really working for you, and don't let that go.
Right.
You know, don't just use it for a little while. Parlay that. And that's my key word, is parlay. Parlay what you've been through and you've learned, and parlay that into the next adventure. I was a musician that got off the road and went into radio, and I parlayed that into radio, and now I'm taking that radio experience and parlaying that into my own station and creating that I love to do so well, and create shows.
Right.
Like the Realize Destiny radio show that's Monday through Friday at 5 Eastern, 4 Central.
4 Eastern, 3 Central. Come on.
Oh, that's right. Man, I forgot when you were on.
So, I love what you said about the team. And I normally say collaborate, and Colette normally says win, win, win. But it is a new space that we have to embrace.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
The world is on reset. And I know this is going to sound odd, and I think Colette and I say it often, but I am just excited about what's on the horizon. No one knows, but I think it's going to put every industry in a better place.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're actually getting a taste of what's on the horizon for the near future. And I think that the one thing this pandemic did is bring people together in a whole new way, like Zoom, like all these different platforms that are keeping people socially distanced but together.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see different things pop up off just the Zoom, for an example, alone, and what's the possibilities are for people to create themselves.
Right.
Yeah. So let me ask this question. What do you think internet radio's potential impact? What's the potential impact that internet radio has on the world? What are we missing about internet radio that we don't realize it could really do to impact the world?
Well, I think as far as us being the U.S. and what our image is to the rest of the world and who we really are, I think is huge, because our image is being discolored in one way or another, and people need to see for themselves. And for the most part, I think that's what internet radio does. There's some evil out there, so you got to watch out and be careful. And that's one of the reasons why I was so strict with myself and what I wanted and what I didn't want to let that dark side come in to my world. I want my station to be positive and family oriented, and people can go to it and not be offended one way or another.
Yeah.
Internet radio is too easy to offend those that come upon something that they're not ready for.
I love that answer, because I hadn't thought about the fact that one of the things that we're always talking about is how the media portrays this and how the media portrays that. But really, if we approach internet radio from the perspective that this gives us an unfiltered way to really represent who we really are, then if we look at it from that way, it causes, at least for me, it causes me to have some level of responsibility when I approach this mic to say,
Absolutely.
okay, you need to know that globally people are listening to you, and they're listening to you, and they're coming into an understanding that this is who you are, number one, but this is who your collective community is as a country.
Absolutely.
I didn't even think about that till you just said that. That is awesome.
Yeah, that's important because, yeah, it's just, I think, so important, especially to those fans that we have that are in Germany and the Netherlands and around that area of the UK that love American radio and try to get that through the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give them that.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's good, Dorien.
So Dorien, what makes you uniquely different than others in your field?
I'm old, and and most of them have put us guys out to pasture and terrestrial radio. So, you know, I'm that kind of breed that is hanging in there and is willing to change with society and technology, and is one of those old geezers that loves all of that, you know.
Yeah.
I know enough to be dangerous. That's the downside, you know, but I really love this, and I want to apply all of that from my years of experience. And even back in the days when there wasn't any phones for people, you know, and to say, hey, we can still do some of that stuff here in this new technology, you know, and blend the two. I love all of that.
Dorien,
You got to be willing to change.
You said something that reminds me of a conversation I was just having with my son. And I said to him, don't ever make the mistake of thinking your grandparents don't have anything to teach you. They are so full of wisdom. And so one of the questions that I just thought of, and it was surprising, is this is the first time I ever thought of this question, which you would think as much as you and I talk, I would have had this question a long time ago, but I didn't. So here we go. But it made me think, okay, so if I am a young 23-year-old, 35-year-old, and I go, you know what? I would like to have my own internet radio network. What should I do? Where should I go? Who should I talk to? And one of the things that I love about Dorien is age old, maybe, but in mind and spirit, no. But
I'm 12 years old.
Yeah. I'm still washing bottles, you know. But you're open and willing to help us understand this thing. So what if I were, which I'm not, but if I were, you know, I had the desire to start an internet radio station, where do I start that at?
Well, I mean, most young people know how to do that, you know, how to find different platforms to work with. They're a lot smarter than we give them credit for sometimes, but they pick up on everything. They already have this internet thing down, you know, they'll find all of that. But in order for them to really soak it all in, that's where you rely on what's been done and how they did it before, and really study that. If you're going to get into radio, you know, get into radio. What was it like? What is it now? You know, I depend on young people to help me stay with it and stay current.
Yeah.
That's important. So I might not get it, but I depend on those that do to make sure that I'm staying current. And then I can add my own, likes in there. But it's not about what I like. It's about what the audience likes. And you have to remember that. It's not about what you want, because what you want might not bring you anything, but think about what your audience would like. And that's really important, especially I know it's internet radio, and I didn't know the majority of the people that are listening are going to be 18 to 40 years old, So yes, I do want the older ones to be in there too, but they'll have to ask their grandkids how to get that, but combine the two, and to be able to listen to those that are getting it to work. I don't know if I'm getting it to work, but I'm trying something to blend it all together.
Yeah. And I do want to tell our audience that's listening, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, if you put them in the chat, we'll answer your questions, we'll respond to your comments, things like that. So we want you all to engage. If you have questions for Dorien, if you have questions for me or questions for Reggie, put them in the chat, put them in the, well, not in the chat, but put them in the comments on the live streams, and we'll be more than happy to go and come and answer your questions or respond to your comments. If we say something that makes you say, hallelujah, amen, then tell us. And so we can amen back. So Catherine says, teamwork equals collaborate equals win-win-win. All the same. And the key to success. Yes.
Absolutely. You have to have a team. I can't do this by myself. I am here 24/7, all by myself like a hermit, but I depend on everybody that's on the platform that I'm using to try to be successful with.
Yeah.
Right.
You need that team. You have to have a team.
Right. I love that. I love it. So Dorien, tell us, why did you connect with Red Development Group?
Well, because of her right up there in the corner. She gets me engaged in stuff that I never even thought about doing, but she's like, you got to try this. You've got to try this. And every time I do, I come out on the other side a winner. I come out ahead of the game, even though I might go into it like, I come out the other side. Wow, man, I'm really glad I did that.
Right. We can never tell you're not. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Well, we are so excited, and we always love it when we get a chance to talk to you and collaborate with you and work with you. So we're excited.
Thanks, Reggie.
Yeah, and we appreciate you. Listen, I appreciate you so much because, the one question I think I probably get the most is, Colette, what do you do for fun? And what I do for fun is Realize Destiny Radio. And I get to do that and enjoy that. And oh my God.
One of these days we'll have to have a bloopers reel of the Realize Destiny Radio show. Because I've learned things that she's never. I learned how much she loves Skittles on her bloopers reels. Yeah. I'd cut open a body and eat them things if I.
It's true. I'm a sucker for Skittles. And oh my God, if anybody can find me a pack of spicy Skittles, listen, I might give you my leg for a pack of spicy Skittles. I mean, I don't have to have two. I could get a cane or something.
I've never heard spicy Skittles. But, Dorien, earlier we were talking about opportunities, and that whole bloopers reel, that's a whole different opportunity within itself. People would love, whether it's Realize Destiny or another show, people love those type of things.
Oh yeah. Well, we've got 3 seasons under our belt right now that we're almost there.
Season 3 starts June 3rd. Yeah, June 1st. June 1st. Yeah. It's gonna be so good. Oh,
I'm really excited about this one too, because that's the fun thing about working with Colette, is she just doesn't keep it at that same level. Every
Right.
time we've done a season, we bring it up a notch. We bring it up a notch, and I'm really excited about this. That's coming up June 1st. It's going to be good.
Yeah, but
love-
that's the other thing about working with a professional. And I was on purpose about where I housed my show, because I like to do things in excellence. And I feel like if we're not going to do it in excellence, you know, I'm just not wasting any of my time to do it, because I don't want to do anything mediocre. I don't want to just be good at stuff. I want to be great in every space that I show up in. And so if you take nothing else from this particular conversation, what I hope you take away from it is, if you are considering starting a podcast or an internet radio show or an internet radio station, I'm just going to go ahead and say, you should reach out to Dorien Jaye at tapthemicradio.com. However, if you decide that you don't want to do that, then ask questions. Make sure that whoever is leading the station or wherever you are housing your voice, is part of the conversation that Reggie and I had earlier today, is your purpose does not have to die with you. Mine will not die. I got a couple YouTube channels, and I've got Realize Destiny, and my voice is everywhere. It will live on. I've got books and all of that. And what are you doing to prepare to live once you are gone? And make sure that whatever space that you allow to house you, your voice, your value, that is worthy of it. It's worthy of, and that you can trust that space with it. What I think I know for absolute sure is, God forbid anything were to ever happen to me, Dorien would make sure whatever belongs to my son, he rightfully gets. If he has
Absolutely.
and he's going to do bloopers, he's going to have a conversation. But that, I think, that's the thing that makes me love Dorien. And crazy thing about it is, we've never even been in the same state before.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing about this whole internet radio thing and doing this, is people are just spread across the country, and I am so proud of that fact, that I've been able to accumulate in association one way or another, this network of people across the country to make this thing work.
Yeah.
And that amazes me every day. I don't know why Dallas is winning out. The Dallas-Fort Worth area is winning out of all the states, but we got some in St. Louis and Dallas and New Hampshire and New York. Yeah. That's what I love about internet.
Well, we love Dorien, as if you can't already tell. We appreciate you so much for always showing up and giving us what is great about you, and only wanting to do that, not just because of us, but just because that's who you are. We love that. We appreciate you for being a Red Champion. We hope that others have an opportunity to experience what we've experienced with you, which is why we host Red Light every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. because the things that, and the people and the team of people that help us to be great in our space, we want everybody else to understand who they are, because connecting with greatness only makes you great.
Connecting with you has helped me learn how to pay it forward better.
That's good.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And that's what it's about.
Yeah.
You know, and Colette and I were talking earlier. This is now a kinder, gentler, not that you weren't before, but after COVID, it just allows us to just change.
Oh, yeah.
To experience
count your blessings. That's the pandemic has had us all count our blessings.
And walk in your purpose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And maybe identify and then walk in.
Well, I think
Yeah,
the other
absolutely.
piece too that I'm loving is it's before it, everybody was like, "Oh, I'm in my purpose." But I think now we're all starting to pay attention to the fact that all of us have purpose. All of us
Right.
have greatness. And there are some of us who are being intentional about figuring out what someone else's purpose or greatness is, because that could be the absolute very thing that saves our life. Literally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you got to know when it's there and when it's not, That's
And then I think
important.
it goes back to now we're all understanding that we really all do need each other. Whether you call it
Absolutely.
collaborating, we all need each other
Absolutely.
at
Absolutely.
our highest level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you again, Dorien. Thank you all for listening and hanging out with us. If you want to connect with Dorien Jaye, or you want to connect with Tap the Mic Radio, move on over to the Tap the Mic Radio page. Like us, follow us. You promise you're going to hear some good stuff. Go to the TuneIn app and save Tap the Mic Radio as your favorite station. Go to tapthemicradio.com and click the listen now button so you can hear the goodness that's coming out of the speakers. And I promise you, if you have a family, you can listen with your kids and they're going to hear something they love and you're going to hear something you love. Myself and my son and one of my friends took a road trip from Michigan to Texas, and we listened to Tap the Mic Radio nearly the entire way.
Oh,
Good.
great.
Yeah, we were lit and we were jamming. Like, there's what my son calls old butt goodies because he's ridiculous. But
Got a
there's
few in
those.
there.
Yeah, and then there's new stuff, and it was just a great time. We had a party in the car because we were listening to Tap the Mic, and then we got to hear Realize Destiny Radio and some of the other shows, and it was a really great experience. So
Congratulate your son too for me, please.
I will do that.
He did great.
He
Yeah.
did. He makes me proud. He does. Now he's trying to skim money from me now. That
Well,
yeah. Now everything is all about, well, you do know I have a master's, right?
next stage.
yeah, exactly. So thank you for joining us. I am Colette Portis, and my amazing co-host is
Reggie Stearns Kemp.
and our guest, Mr. Dorien Jaye. Thank you all for joining us. Have a phenomenal day, night, evening, afternoon, whatever. It's whatever. Bye.
Thanks.